So, the big picture. How does Adele sell so much? Well, the first thing is you have to know that gimmicks do not sell. Genuity does. Okay? So, this goes for hip-hop. The same reason why people love Youngboy. You know, the same reason why, you know, people love, say, for instance, Tupac, right? It's the genuity factor that allows her to sell the most. For you know, Adele's example, she's being very candid about her story, about, you know, the issues in her life as far as her divorce, you know, through kind of the depression, which was evident in the record, especially in 30, and just she's being very honest and frank, and that will always win over your audience. You know, there's a reason why a majority of artists don't really last long or don't really sell records. You know, they have a tough time even entering the 100K first week mark. And it's because of the fact that it's literally just singles and jingles with them. And again, that's fine. It's always nice to have a hit record. It's always nice to be able to dance. But your overall job as an artist, right? Your primary objective is to tell the audience, not really through your mouth, not really through interviews, but through your music, through your art. Who in the hell are you? Right? If your own fans don't know who you are and you don't have an identity, it's very, very hard to have that relatability factor and for people to buy in to what you're selling. Because, you know, when you're selling your art, you're supposed to be selling a part of yourself. Maybe it's not going to be the whole thing because, you know, obviously you have to have, you know, some privacy in your life, or maybe like you're just one of those type of people that like to throw everything out there. But you're not going to try to give everything in your art. You have to leave something for yourself because you are a human being at the end of the day, right? But, you know, at the same time, there has to be something that the audience connect to. There has to be something that when a listener listens to your music, they can take something valuable with them, right? And if they can't do that, you know, there's not going to be a lot of people outside of, you know, your hardcore or your day one fans that's really going to buy your record. That's why so many people are selling 35K, 50K. Like those guys, like I said before, not really just guys, but just people and artists in general, both male and female, they have trouble crossing that 100,000 threshold because they haven't found a way to either, you know, talk about their life, or talk about or be able to express themselves or express some truths about, you know, their life experiences and make it interesting to the audience and make it, you know, connect, right? So that's very important, all right? So another reason why Adele sells a lot is that her audience is typically an older audience and upper middle class, right? Upper middle class, they have the money to spend. Also, you know, speaking to an older audience, another thing that really, you know, helps her really stand out in the older audience and just basically just older heads in general, there's no auto-tune in her vocals. You know, her voice is straight natural, right? And then a lot of the topics that she goes through, you know, talking about therapy, talking about depression, talking about relationships, right? Those are, you know, experiences that older people would know something about. Older people would know about going to therapy. You don't really hear, you know, too many young people, even if they have gone to therapy, you don't really hear too many young artists, you know, talking about their time in therapy. You know, you understand, like, it's not, they don't really mention too much therapy in their thing. It's kind of like you're supposed to infer that their music is, you know, their form of therapy. But it wouldn't be blatantly stated. I don't necessarily think it was blatantly stated in Adele's music, but you kind of get the general gist. It's kind of like, it relates to those sector of people because Adele herself has undergone therapy as well because of her year-long depression in 2019, right? And then also the type of music that she makes. You know, it's very, very important to know your audience, especially when you're first starting out. So the type of music you make, not everyone is going to like your music. You have to go out there and you got to go find the people or find a sector or find, you know, a certain age group that will be able to kind of mess with the type of music that you're making, right? So if you're making more lyrical content, if you're just like, hey, I want to make rap, you know, based off the what you would call it, the 90s, and you know, Adele's sense, again, she doesn't have a particular sound per se, but a lot of it is rooted in like the, you know, the old soul sound, like the Marvin Gaye's of the world, the Ella Fitzgerald's, Etta James, like those artists that she listens to, you can hear that influence a lot of her music, right? Who are people that would like a Marvin Gaye? Who are people that would like, you know, say the OJ's, Temptations, you know, other artists in that era? It would be older people, because you know, they were young, and that was music that was familiar to them. That was music from their era, you know, where the, you know, the vinyls and all that as well. Also, you know, older audience would typically, you know, be likely to go buy physical copies of music, because that's what they grew up around. They grew up around CDs. They grew up around vinyl records. Because they have already lived that life where they, you know, it was popular at one point in time to use those things, you know, that's going to be something that they hang on to. She doesn't oversaturate the market. You know, one thing I noticed about Adele is that, one, she rarely is ever on social media, right? And obviously social media is huge when it comes to marketing, is huge when it comes to promotion, and she, you know, hardly ever does it at all, right? She didn't even know what the hell a body count was, right? So that goes to show you right then and there that, you know, she's not really hit the social media game because she doesn't use it. She is really reserved. She, you know, believes in privacy, and she doesn't like to put her life on blast. That is the reason why she never actually revealed the actual year of her marriage. She said that she was married, but she wasn't. She didn't reveal her son's age, was not revealed until 2013, when his birth was actually in 2012. You know, you didn't hear about the, you know, at the time she was having a depression, she didn't go on social media to go talk about it, right? She, you know, dealt with her pain in private, and then, you know, when it was, you know, time to roll out her album, she talked about it. Also, it's just the, you know, the way she moves. You know, you really don't see her around unless it's on tours, or unless it's time for release, right? And this has been, you know, the pattern of behavior that's been happening for a long time. And typically, what happens when you, okay, so I'm gonna give you two examples, right? I'm gonna give you a case scenario for an artist that oversaturates the market. I'm gonna give you, you know, Adele's example, or just like our artist that does not oversaturate the market, right? So for an artist that oversaturates the market, they're always posting crazy shit on social media. So even if they're not even making music, you constantly see their name in the headlines. When they get to a hot point, and majority of artists don't, well, they think in their heads, and it may be true, may not be true. They be like, hey, listen, why in the world would I sit up there and change what I'm doing if it's successful, right? So they're not thinking about the ceiling. They're not thinking about going up the next level. They're thinking about maintaining. And that's good for a few minutes when you're hot, but, you know, people want to see evolution. So if you're constantly giving them the same thing over and over again, eventually even your own fans get tired and say, hey, like, I'm tired of seeing you everywhere. I'm tired of listening to the same old shit. You got something else new. Especially, you know, due to the streaming era, music is consumed so fast. Because of that, you know, there's always, you know, everyone wants something new. So say, for instance, you drop the hit song next week. Well, you know, fans and just, you know, music consumers want something, you know, the week after. She comes out, she has long hiatuses, which actually increases her demand. So, you know, speaking on the other side, let's give Gunna, for example, right? Gunna hasn't, you know, released a project in a long period of time. He's not really been in a public limelight. So, you know, that was how he was able to, in a way, you know, why his album was so successful, because there was a demand for it. Everyone is thinking like, huh, like, I wonder what Gunna's up to. I wonder what, you know, I wonder if he's still making music, right? So, you know, the less visible you are sometimes, the higher the demand is. And if you, you know, get to a point where you oversaturate the market, people, especially if you have nothing new, people are going to get tired of it, and that just, it does you no good for your brand. It decreases the likelihood of consumers continuing to purchase your product, and it diminishes your value. No features. Yeah, the NBA YoungBoy shit, right? I think that that's what makes what she's even doing remarkable. To have, you know, 2 albums that is the highest selling album of the decade. I believe 21 is the second highest selling album of the 2010s, and 25 is the 4th highest selling album of the 2010s, right? And I don't think she's ever had, matter of fact, I'm sorry, I don't think, she's not had one feature on her albums. Now, granted, I tried to kind of search around to see if there was some information out there, you know, concerning if she was ever a feature artist, she ever just do a single outside of, you know, her projects that, you know, had a feature artist in it, and she doesn't. You know, I wasn't really able to find, you know, too much information about why she doesn't do features. Like, and also, you know, it's getting to a point where I kind of had to release the video in a timely fashion. So I did the best I could to look around. I couldn't find any information concerning that. And I think her being by herself allows her to tell her story unfiltered, to tell her story, you know, relentlessly, because she doesn't have to be conscious of, you know, quote unquote, another partner or another collaborator. She just kind of does her, and her fans and her listeners love her for whatever she brings to the table. A great performer is a huge part of why you sell. You know, if you are able to go on tour, right, you don't need any auto-tune, you don't need to be lip-syncing your lyrics. It's just all you the performer, bringing the energy, you know. And obviously Adele is, you know, going to go down as one of the, she already is, but she's going to go down in history as one of the greatest vocalists of all time, right? So, you know, her ability to just make a strong impact with her voice. And then obviously, like I said before, there's no backing track. There's no like lyrics overplaying. She remembers all her lyrics. You know, just the little stuff makes a big difference, especially to her fans. And think about it this way, right? If you're able, you know, I always looked at LMA, and I looked at Kehlani, and, you know, people always, even let's just say the Locks verses, right? And, you know, all three of them remembered their lines, and they even went above and beyond and was, you know, kind of reciting each other's verses, which was to me that was pretty damn remarkable, right? So fans appreciate that, and especially in an era where, you know, there is too much lip syncing. And again, one reason why you would have the backing track, say if you like to do a lot of performing and you like to do a lot of dancing, a lot of movement, it's going to be really, really hard to establish real breath control because you're all over the place and you're already kind of exercising. So you kind of have to slow your body down and just kind of recite the lyrics. I would think that that's what, you know, why you have a backing track. But I also think in the same token, if it is possible for you not to lip sync your lyrics and just memorize your lyrics in full for the performance, you know, I greatly appreciate that as a listener or someone who, I've never been to a concert before, but I'm pretty sure if an artist took time out their day to memorize the lyrics and just really just give a performance that, if not better than, you know, what was on the digital copy, digital file, whatever, at least maybe even better, right? So just those little things. And then also one thing about tours is very, very personable, right? It's very interactive, if you will. You know, you're seeing all your fans face to face. And I think that when, you know, the more personable you are, you know, to an individual, to a potential consumer, the more likely it is that they're going to buy your product, especially music-wise. So if you're able to perform on tour and you're able to perform your songs amazing, it's going to make people look at your music a little bit differently, because it's you acting out your song in person. The same reason for, say, music videos. Well, music videos are very important because it gives them a visual of, you know, the artistic, at least if not the whole thing, a glimpse of the artist and artistic intention behind their music, behind their song. You know, it gives your music a whole different meaning when you're, you know, able to give a visual representation of your work. Okay? The other thing is the aura of mystery, right? Same thing with YoungBoy, you know, not being on social media a lot. It kind of goes back to what I said about, you know, not oversaturated market. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons why Eminem is, you know, really, I don't want to say this without coming off kind of sus, but I have to say it only because this is the only word that comes to mind. What makes them so attractive? Ooh, that. I gotta say, listen, I don't have another word that comes to mind that's going to describe what I'm saying. But what makes them so interesting, that sounds better. The fuck am I saying? What makes Eminem sound more interesting, what makes a YoungBoy, what makes a Michael Jackson, or just like even Adele, for the example that I'm giving right now, what makes them so interesting is that they don't show you all of their moves. You know, they're very quiet, they're very reserved. And in that way, because you're not opening your mouth as much, You know, everyone is thinking in their mind, they're like, who is this person, right? Like, they want to get to know more because you give them so little. Or you appear like you're giving them so little, right? So the time that you do open your mouth, the time that you are asked a question, it's like those moments are just precious because they're so rare and in a way scarce that when it does take place, it's like it's a special moment of time to capture. So in a way, you know, the aura of mystery, you know, really heightens your value because people are going to want to know more about you. They're going to, you know, go through the depths, through your music, through your past interviews, to your personal. They're going to try to find every way about you to kind of piece together like this, you know, huge jigsaw puzzle with like all of these, you know, scattered pieces. They're going to try to put stuff together. An artist who is more introverted, more reserved, more laid back, you know, they're in a way like, because one side of it obviously is the extroverted star power side where you just kind of like just throwing yourself out there, you the life of the party. There's not really much surprise behind that because in a way, you know, for more extroverted artists, you kind of know what you're going to get. But for more reserved artists who doesn't like, who kind of, you know, stays pretty low key, you don't know what to expect from them. You don't know what's on their mind, right? So I think, you know, the mystery, the surprise factor really attracts people, so to speak. You know what I mean? The genius of the 25 strategy. Like I said before, she knows her audience. Older people tend to buy more physical copies, right? And she's already built up a reputation in 21, which was a hit album in 19, right? So she already knew that she was already hot. She already knew that, like I said before, the aura of mystery, the long hiatus, not oversaturated the market. She knew that there was a demand from her audience for her music, and her music was worth buying that $9.99, that physical copy, vinyl, CD, what have you, just to go listen to it. So, you know, her label and her team were smart enough to just sit back and say, hey, you know, I know we're in the streaming era, and I know that we're kind of taking a gamble here because people don't buy, at the very least, at least the younger generation, they're not really going to buy full albums. Not all of them, but a lot of them try to cheat the system. So they'll go on YouTube or whatever, or they'll just, some of them will try to go find illegal means of going to go find the album, and, you know, whether they distribute it illegally or listen illegally, you know, that's going to happen. Now, obviously, there was bootleg back then before the stream eras, but it's more prevalent now just because, you know, the consumer isn't as interested in buying music, and a lot of it has to do with the, you know, the fact that you can just get a $9.99 a month membership at Apple or Spotify, right? So that was a huge risk to take in a social media era, and mind you, I believe this was what, 2015 that she did it. So this was like well into the streaming era, like not really in its infancy anymore, like right when things are kind of like, you know, getting started. We're going to go to our last thing, is that pop has a bigger demographic and it's more global, right? And that's just the way it is. It's like compared to R&B, which is, even though I love R&B and I am an R&B artist myself, it's kind of it's a dwindling genre. Particularly, you know, because of the evolution of melodic rap. So, you know, a lot of these rappers, you know, your favorite gangster rappers is now singing. So it begs the question, like, what's the real need for R&B anymore, right? There wouldn't be a demand for it because rappers sing now. You get where I'm coming from? So, like, the value of R&B slightly has diminished. Not really slightly, has diminished over the years. Partially because of the fact that there isn't really just one big talent outside of Kehlani and then Chris Brown. But like, Chris Brown had his, in my opinion, his peak a long time ago. He's past his prime as far as like being a hot artist. Like, again, I'm not going to tell you that people, you know, are not going to go pay their money to go see Chris Brown. I'm not going to tell you that he can't sell records. Like, he absolutely can. He's built up his reputation over the years as pretty much being the greatest R&B artist in the world. But I'm also letting you know that, you know, his era is slightly shifted now. Pop has a bigger demographic. And think about, you know, K-pop and how big it is. Not just in their country, but on a worldwide scale. It's just a bigger demographic of listeners versus just hip-hop, which is, you know, I'm not saying that there isn't, you know, other races that do it, but hip-hop is a black art. Now, granted, you know, there's more and more people listening to hip-hop more than ever now. But, you know, pop has, I'm not going to say it's been around for a longer time. You know what? But I was about to say that pop has been around for a longer time than hip-hop, but that just might not be true. But, you know, pop just has a more global outreach than hip-hop. And the fact that she is British herself, that also helps her case a little bit when it comes to being able to go get those fans, find those people that are going to, you know, buy your product. Because pop is still to this day in high demand, and just so many different forms of it, right? And then also her music, you know, though she is considered a pop singer, is a hell of a lot different than most pop artists. You know, most pop artists now are just, they're kind of like, it's more upbeat, it's more electric. Pop is more of the singles and jingles game, and she's more concerned about full-length, very introspective bodies of work. And that's what's, and then also it's how it's deeply rooted, like I said before, in the mid-60s, late 70s, you know, soul thing. So it's the nostalgia, and how there's not really, you know, she doesn't have any competition in her own lane. Now, though it's, like I said before, it's reminiscent of a past era, her music is identifiable. You know, that's just adds to its value. So hopefully I did enough to like make it an entertaining and an educational video. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if y'all could, man. I'm out of here. Peace. Bye.